original singer? Go. You messed this up. I'm gonna slap you.
Just the two of us? Not Will Smith was not the original singer.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there any other questions for you tonight, sir?
Bill Withers, man.
I did not know that.
Come on.
Not gonna lie to you.
One of my
Did
favorites.
not know that. Okay, welcome back to the Higher Standard, the #1 financial literacy podcast in the world, not the country, the world.
The world, globally, all around.
The round world.
Around the entire axis.
For those of you who might be flat Earth fans, this is not your show.
Yeah, this ain't it. Welcome back to the show, everybody.
Should we explain the awkward intro?
It's a little awkward. It feels incomplete.
No, it feels pretty complete for me. I'm not gonna lie.
Why? Why does it feel complete to you, Chris?
So for those of you who are not the day oneers, the 5 original fans, Saied and I originally started this show in the garage.
Your garage.
My garage. And we moved to a studio, which we're in, and we also added the powerful sound engineering brought to you by Arun.
Wow,
and
powerful.
Arun has a very, very pregnant wife.
Very pregnant.
So he could not make this week's episode.
Could not. He's being a great husband, great father to his 1-year-old.
Yeah, do your thing, man. That's what you're supposed to do.
Speaking of his 1-year-old, they threw an amazing first birthday for her over the weekend.
It was, and I know this is your segue to telling everybody how you beat my ass at cornhole.
Every part of the birthday was amazing.
Yeah.
Even when I whooped that ass in cornhole.
Would not expect anything less than juvenile behavior like that from you.
I'm sorry.
So, okay, so we are without our usual sound engineer, so you're going to get just sexy and semi-sexy all night long.
Quasi-sexy, if you will.
Quasi-sexy. So this week's show, we're going to cover David Solomon, one of my favorite in the business. He's the CEO over at Goldman Sachs. He made some comments as it relates to the economy, and I found his comments, as nebulous as they may ultimately sound to you, to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I assume you found them interesting as well?
Absolutely. Every time he speaks. Very interesting.
Every time he speaks. Then we're going to talk a little bit about an article I found related to Americans having a particularly high amount of credit card debt.
A lot. Close to $1 trillion. That's a lot of money.
I believe 10 billion short of $1 trillion.
Yeah, 10 billion.
The numbers start to bleed together, man. At some point, it's just all egregious.
And I thought, given that we are the #1 financial literacy podcast in the world, there's some information that we expect or we think that our listeners probably know, but we should probably go down maybe a little lesson on how to properly use a credit card.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I got some of the
I got a whole counterculture
vernacular
thing there about how I use credit cards.
Oh, great.
I use them in a very different way, and I think everybody else should use them in a very different way. But I think everybody should use them as their primary way of paying for things, which is not a Dave Ramsey lesson.
Yeah, the opposite, actually.
It's the opposite.
Yeah.
But I will say, depending on what demographic you're speaking to, that might be a better solution for you.
Speaking of Dave Ramsey.
Not a whole lot of positivity for me to say right there.
I mean, later on this episode, I feel like you're going to go in pretty hard.
Yep. That is correct. I'm trying to pace myself, but I believe my show note says this motherfucker.
Yeah, that's it.
That is the entirety of my comment, preparing everyone else for what I'm about to say.
Right.
I'm a terrible human. We will talk about bonds. I think there's a lot of question by a lot of people who ping, I think, both Saied and myself, maybe even Arun, even though he doesn't have any friends, about how bonds work and about how they're supposed to be a secure investment, but people are very uncertain. And I got a great article from Axios on this I think is valuable. But it goes to show you kind of where the treasuries are. But these are what are supposed to be the most secure types of debt in the market.
Right.
And the debt markets are ass backwards right now.
One of the safest investment tools.
Allegedly.
Right. That's
prior to this time in the economy where interest rate risk is kicking in.
Right.
But now it's not so safe.
Yes.
Dum.
Yeah.
Oh, Dave Ramsey, what am I going to do with you? We'll talk a little bit about house prices to round out the episode, and then, just maybe then, we'll say we're done for the night, but knowing us, we'll go on for eternity, because the room's not here. It's a party.
Yeah, exactly. We get to go on for as long as we want.
If the guy who controls everything
Yeah.
and stops us from saying goofy shit isn't here.
Yeah, exactly. He's not throwing up signs on the TV. Guys, wrap it up.
Yeah, hey, man, you didn't cite that article right, man. The viewers want to know, man.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, none of y'all care.
Yeah.
Y'all don't care.
Never once. Nobody's come out and said, hey, man, thanks for sending the articles.
Chris, you didn't. Yeah, no. We spent so much time putting the articles in the goddamn show notes.
So much.
They're in the show notes, people.
Right.
Do your homework.
And in the newsletters that we haven't been sending out.
Yeah, I have not been sending those out. And I got to tell you, the reason why I've not been sending them out is because nobody's giving me positive feedback. So if you're listening to this and you actually like the newsletters, we will continue to send it out. Everybody who's in podcasting has always told us, you guys got to build your mailing list. You got to make sure that people
It's like the first
build your newsletter, your email list. It's important for your brand.
Right.
And I'm like, but we're not selling anything.
No, we're not selling anything.
So what do you do?
But if you do like this show enough, whether you're listening on Apple or on Spotify, please do us a favor and go on and leave us an honest 5-star review. It really helps out the show, and it makes us feel like we're headed in the right direction. Because God knows, this show's not sponsored by anybody.
It is not sponsored by anybody, but it should be sponsored by everybody.
Should be.
So let's see if we can play David Solomon here without breaking something. Let's turn the volume up here because we're doing it on our own.
You like him for his hairstyle? Is that
because he's bald? Don't make a bald joke. Uh-oh. See, we have technical problems the first time out the gate. See, look at Saied. This is why I can't take you anywhere.
This is my fault now.
This is your fault now.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
This is working as well as his Apple savings accounts are.
David Solomon? I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well. And it's not connecting to the Roadcaster. There it is. All right, kids, let's try this again.
Resilient, and I would say that I have been surprised, over the course of the last year. I certainly predicted, given the economic tightening we've seen, a bumpier ride than we've had so far. I still think we're at an uncertain moment, and I just said at the conference here, while our economists again reduced their view on the chance of a recession in the U.S., I just think it's a period to be a little bit cautious. I've got enormous respect for Jan Hatzius.
You've always sounded more bearish than he is.
But he's been more right, at this point. And so I think we look at it, I think we could muddle through here, with a much softer landing than we would have expected. But I think if you're running a big financial institution or you're running a business at the moment, we still could have an environment where we have slow, sluggish growth and inflation a little bit more sticky. So I think you've got to be a little bit cautious. That might not be a recession, but it certainly would feel like a recession if we had an environment with 0 to 1% growth and 3.5 to 4% inflation. The U.S. economy has been...
He said a lot of the things that Jerome Powell said. The U.S. economy has been incredibly resilient. That we could see an economy with slow growth, but it'll feel like a recession. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. This is a CNBC interview. There was a big conference today where all the banks spoke, and he was one of the people who spoke with Sarah Eisen for CNBC afterward. They always do these panels outside. There was a number of very prominent people in banking and investing that were speaking to CNBC, and he certainly was one of them. David Solomon, I've seen him speak in person. Again, phenomenal speaker.
Tremendous amount of respect for him.
He was couching his fears of recession. If you're a business owner,
yes,
I don't know that you cannot be concerned.
Have to be.
Right? So as much as he's saying, like, I see a pathway for a potentially an exit without a recession, what he's describing is stagflation.
Yes.
Right? And do you remember the definition of stagflation? I'm going to quiz you right here, bro.
Let's see. It's a recessionary economy with high unemployment. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Recessionary inflation.
Right.
So basically, he's describing an environment where we have recession-like trends and inflation is going up.
Yes.
That is still a recession.
Exactly.
It's recession plus something.
Right.
Yeah, and he's describing it saying, well, I can see a pathway out of it without a recession. But what he describes in describing this not recessionary economy scenario is, in fact, a recession.
Yes.
And stagflation. I've been hearing more and more about stagflation and going back to the early parts of, call it 2021, breaking into 2022, when people were talking about, are we in a recession, are we not? Stagflation was very prominent then because we saw all these things.
Exactly.
Here's what I'll say. There is a tremendous amount of uncertainty in the market, and people are confused. I get messages every single day on social media talking about little things that people are seeing that give them the real-time data feedback that makes them feel like we are in a recession.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Would you like some examples?
I would like some. I think I have some, too.
All right, good. I got hit up today. I got a DM voice message. I listen to those. If I don't respond to you, which is rare, I want you to know I always listen to them. And a guy was an early day one follower. Listened to the podcast since it was just me talking to myself in the garage before he even joined.
Wow.
That's how far back he goes.
Yes.
He knew all the stories, everything else. And he was like, hey, man, I know we're in a recession. I was like, how do you know? And he goes, on my block, I live in a very dense, urban, like metropolitan area.
Okay.
On my block, it's hard to find parking during the week, but on Friday and Saturday nights up until later in the evening, you can always find parking because everybody's out. He's like, now you can't find parking anymore because nobody has the money to go out.
Wow.
So they're kicking it at home.
These are the little signs that people are starting to notice.
Those little signs. That's that real-time data. That you can't get that from these reports from the Fed or from these data aggregators or Moody's or Black Knight. This is stuff that's happening right now that people see that make them go, okay, we are in a recession.
Right. And I think it's important to note here, today is June 12th, right? Monday.
Oh, we're going to be so proud of you right now.
Yeah. Tomorrow, CPI comes out.
And the day after that is what, PPI is it? Or
no, day after that is the second day of the FOMC meeting. And then on Thursday, it's
that's right.
Thursday's retail sales comes out. So
there's another one after CPI, though. I just can't remember what it is. I think it might be, it's either PPI.
I think
it's PPI. It's something coming out on. It's two data points in a row before the Fed announcement.
Okay.
So I know they're going to have two coming out. I don't remember what it was.
So by the time this episode actually comes out, the Fed will have already made their decision, which we believe that they're likely going to pause. A lot of people are now changing the vernacular to skip because they know that this isn't the end of it.
I'm not going to lie to you, man. So I was watching CNBC today, and there was a lot of brilliant commentary. And unlike most times where I see a lot of people speak about banking, I think today there was a lot of articulate, well thought out comments. So I wasn't frustrated looking at the television today.
Right.
But I will say every single person in the banking sector is like they're cautiously optimistic, but they don't want to say we can avoid a recession.
Right.
The economists are all over the place now.
Mm-hmm.
Like some are saying recession, some are saying no recession. It's wild.
Right.
Some people that I think were the social media people have now moved on from this recession talk because they just can't get clicks from it anymore.
Right.
But I feel like it's more pronounced in being felt now more than ever for the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was talking to my wife the other day. Like I there are things at the grocery store I'll go to and try to find that just aren't there.
Right.
Things that used to be really easy to buy that clearly are supply chain issues or shortages in supply or whatever. I really feel like we're seeing recessionary trends now. And the earnings recession that we predicted for July, I think is a real thing. And I think we're going to see it in all the warning signs we're seeing right now, those little tiny real-time implications, people not going out and spending on a Friday and Saturday night. That's the start of your earnings recession when companies come out and they say, we are not making as much as we thought we were. Not all sectors, but in a lot of them.
And here's some of the fear that I have. So of the companies that are on the S&P 500, 99% of them have now reported their earnings for Q1.
Mm-hmm.
And net profit margins were on the rise. They're all mainly positive.
Yep.
What scares me about this, okay, every company always wants to remain profitable, okay? What are they going to have to do to remain profitable, right? Maybe some of them are going to have to continue to raise prices or services or the cost of their goods.
Like Netflix cut off those subscribers who were basically, second families attached to the same user ID.
Exactly.
And they saw a spike in subscriptions.
Mm-hmm.
That means more revenue for them, so they'll continue to make money now.
Right, exactly. So what are some of these companies going to have to do, right? And if let's just say that continues to have services go up, cost of services go up.
So now let's talk about Disney Plus.
Okay.
Same scenario. They've got to figure out a way to make more money because their subscribers, they're not getting the same lift they did. So they're going to cut shows and cut back on some of the third-party programming they have on their app.
Right.
Because if you can't make more money, you need to cut expenses.
Yes, exactly.
Same sector, different results.
Exactly. So with CPI coming out tomorrow, we'll see. By the time this episode drops, the results will have already come out. The expectations are that CPI will drop from 4.9% to 4%, okay, overall. But
4.9 to 4.
Okay, but here's the problem. Core inflation that removes food and energy, right, that's expected to go up 5.3%. So we know that the Fed's preferred measure is PCE, first of all, okay? But even in PCE, they like to look at core to remove food and energy because those two components of the report are really volatile.
Yeah.
Right? So when they remove it, it's actually higher than they project. I think this remains sticky for quite some time. I'm not agreeing with what the Fed's going to be doing if it is in fact what WERP and Chicago Mercantile Exchange is projecting, where they're going to do a skip in June.
Don't start saying skip. Don't be that guy.
No, I'm just saying.
Don't
okay.
adopt this.
Well, the problem is, okay, pause, right? If they pause, because that doesn't, what the Fed really wants to make sure.
I don't want it to be a foregone conclusion they're going to increase rates because I'm a selfish bastard, and I think it's just too much in the sector.
Yeah.
Let me be clear.
But by Wednesday, we're going to know.
By Wednesday, we're going to know. Here's my frustration, okay? And I know that people are like, oh, Chris is a banker, so Chris is trying to protect the banking sector. No, I'm not.
No.
I'm really not. Here's what happens, okay? Everybody's so hyper-focused on the Fed interest rate increases right now because they believe that is what moves interest rates because it's what's been moving interest rates lately.
Absolutely.
That moves your depository prices up because the cost for banks to borrow funds and ultimately what you as a consumer may be able to demand from your institution.
Mm-hmm.
But what really moves loan interest rates up is the yield curve, which is still inverted, which we've talked about on the show.
Okay.
People are already saying there is a debt crisis on the horizon. This is a great segue into the debt stuff that we're going to talk about later on.
That's exactly what
segue myself. I don't even need you, bro.
I was going to do it.
No, you weren't.
How are you going to throw an alley-oop to yourself off the glass?
Because I'm that athletic.
Come on.
Okay? I'm that talented. LeBron will do it.
Man, I was over here looking, I got this segue down. Let's go.
So the debt market is already super concerned about an increasing set of defaults in the commercial real estate sector. Why? These loans are typically 1, 3, 5, 7, or 10 years, right? And they can be interest payments or non-interest payments, but they're adjustable rate mortgages, ARM loans,
right.
And they come due. So any loan that was made 1 year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 or 10 years ago, coming due,
right,
at historical interest rate lows, probably somewhere in the 3 to 4% range for commercial real estate. Then, that comes due now, and guess what? The rates are a lot higher.
Right, and they're going to be forced to have to refinance to whatever rate environment we're in. Otherwise, it adjusts.
And exactly. It'll be index plus margin pricing. It'll probably adjust much higher than what you can get in a fixed rate loan today.
Yes.
People are worried that the vacancy in the office space sector means their income coming in, and their primary way of determining these loans is something called a debt service coverage ratio.
Right.
Every dollar in income, right, you have to have a certain amount of expense. And in most cases, it's $1.25 of profit for every dollar in expense. That's the ratio.
So I got some data here from Green Street. Headwinds mean office values are now down 27% on average from their recent peak after falling further in the past month. According to Green Street, the average commercial property value is down 15%.
So let's explain that really quickly. We've done some episodes on this before. There's a great 3 things you need to know about commercial real estate episode we did early in 2021, which I think is a good jump-off point.
The big commercial real estate episode?
The big one.
The biggest of them.
And there's also 3 things you need to know about. There's actually 2 different podcasts. The big commercial real estate episode and the 3 things you need to know about commercial real estate, which is an even earlier one. So
BS.
I know the own catalog.
Yeah.
Before Saied, yes, BS. So the income approach to value is the primary reason why any investor buys a piece of commercial real estate, because they want it to make them money. There's a couple different approaches to value, but generally that's the one that most people rely on when appraising a property because that's of the most importance to an investor.
Yes.
Or syndication of investors, if you will. So because these properties are making less money because of the massive amount of increased vacancy, because they can now demand less on $1 per square foot for rent because there's less competition in the market, those properties are inherently worth less because they're making the investor less money.
That's why we're not seeing a whole lot of transactions right now in the commercial real estate space, because people can't agree on a sales price or a purchase price.
So back to my original point, however, this is before the yield curve comes out of its deepest inversion since 1981.
Right. Long time.
That sounds vintage.
Yeah.
Right?
It sounds like it's as old as you.
It's actually a little bit younger than me. But in any event, so when the yield curve comes out of its inversion, it'll put upward pressure on the long end of the curve, the long end of the rate market, right? 10-year market, right? And because of that, loan rates will rise.
Right.
Home rates, yes, rise. Commercial real estate rates will rise. Personal line of credit rates will rise.
Yeah,
so
just because the Fed decides to pause doesn't mean that rates and all these other components in banking will not rise. They will continue to rise.
So think about this from a bank's perspective. If you're like me and you're like, okay, well, Chris is in the banking sector and you think that he's not looking out for himself, here's what happens. When the Fed pauses or slows down the cadence of interest rate increases, banks' cost of funds will then stay stationary as their profit margins increase as the yield curve inversion comes out.
Yes.
Sooner or later, that's going to happen. That precedes recessionary economies. Even if it's not a recession, a healthy economy has a normal inversion of the normal steep incline of the yield curve. And as that happens, profitability for banks will widen out. So this is temporary for banks,
right?
But this will destroy consumers
in more ways than one. So I know a lot of the things that we've been talking about so far, as far as some of the commercial loans that we're talking about, I don't think applies to the masses out there, although very important.
You're talking about large people when you say masses?
Yeah, all the people.
You are a villain.
I'm not discriminating.
To be clear,
I'm not discriminating.
I feel like you just did a little bit.
I'm trying to include
And as a larger individual, it's hurtful.
I'm inclusive.
You're not inclusive. You're not inclusive at all.
Inclusive.
You're a very not inclusive individual.
So when the Fed decides to raise rates,
I'm afraid to wear white shirts in front of you like this.
You should be,
because it's not slimming enough for you.
When I see you wear white shirts, I'm like, wow, he's feeling confident today.
This is actually what I wore to work today. And truth be told, if you saw me on camera today, I had a tie on, and it was all business up top.
Oh.
But this is the same outfit below.
So I actually did a lot of site inspections today.
Yeah, I heard you were driving around Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Looking for meth.
No, what?
That's what you said.
I did not
You
say.
said you found some, too.
I did not say that. I was walking around Los Angeles, saw some crack pipes on the floor.
I didn't ask you if you took a hit of one.
Yeah, this is not good.
Yeah.
But, okay, so a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about so far, as far as the commercial real estate loans, I don't think applies to the masses, but it's good to be educated on these things. How this does impact you if you don't have any commercial real estate loans. When the Fed decides to raise their Fed funds rate, how does this impacts you on your credit cards, right? Your credit card rates will go up. Right now, I think in March of last year, credit card interest rates were around 16%. Now, above 20%. What's going to happen if they continue to raise in July? Your credit card payments are going to go up. What's going to happen when student loans payments are now, brought back again? I think the average student loan payment is anywhere between $200 to $300. Okay.
Bro, I wish mine was that one.
I know.
Mine was like $1,200 when I graduated.
Mine's way more than that too. But I'm just saying the average. So people haven't been forced to make those payments. Credit card payments are already higher than they've ever been. You got APRs of 20%. Currently, right now, credit card debt, $988 billion. That's an average of $5,700 per person.
Saied, quoting an article by Marketplace, Americans have almost $990 billion in credit card debt. Shall I quote the article a little bit?
Please.
Give you a little something sexy to talk about?
Por favor.
And your segue game was solid.
Thank you.
Yeah, very well done. We saw lenders come back into the market in a big way, open up the consumer credit spigot, including making a lot of credit available for the first time in a while to riskier borrowers, said Charlie Weiss, Senior Vice President of Research and Consulting at the Credit Bureau TransUnion. Between early 2021 and mid-2022, about 10 million people got credit cards. 10 million!
That's a lot.
The fuck?
Yeah.
Who hadn't had them before. Then, while everything from coffee to airplane tickets went up in price, people relied on credit to keep buying those things. That's a bad start to any conversation.
I mean, people aren't so quick to change their lifestyles.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Saied. Quoting the article once again, people are usually very reluctant to quickly change their living standards. So they usually use credit for a while, said Steve Blitz, chief U.S. economist for T.S. Lombard.
Right.
Steve Blitz, solid name.
Blitz?
Blitz.
Gangster.
Yeah. Now, Blitz said...
Hold on, where's Odin when you need him to pull up his picture?
I know. Now Blitz said that as consumers eyeball those high balances made higher by rising interest rate charges, they'll start cutting back, which could have a negative impact on the economy. If you get to the part of the economy, which is discretionary spending, the stuff that we like to buy and shove into our closets, then that's about 25, 30% of GDP, which is still very, very large, he said.
Wow. I looked this up last week, and I know this adjusts on a weekly basis, but the GDP Now figure produced by the Atlanta Fed, it was tracking at like 2%.
Which, if you guys haven't checked the Atlanta Fed's GDP Now, go into the Googles.
The
Googles. And type in Atlanta GDP Now. It'll take you directly. There's a link to it. That's actually the name, GDP Now.
I think it'll even pop up right there on your search page.
On the Googles?
Yeah, on the Googles, what they're predicting.
Googly moogly?
Yeah.
It'll pop up, and it'll actually give you kind of a tracker of where they think it's at with their variant, if it's close to real-time approximation as they can get to it.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So it gives you a good insight as to like where things are going. And the more that number continues to stay positive, it makes the Fed feel like they still have more room to operate. So that's the scary part is we can see where this road is headed if they continue to go, because there could be a situation where there's over tightening, right? And that's what they're afraid of. That's why you're starting to hear all the jawboning of.
Come on, man.
There's
a lot
When
of
they
weight
bite.
jokes.
It's just
sorry.
it's horrific. They're
What was that? That was Joe Rogan. I got so mad I hit Joe Rogan.
See what happens when Odun's not here?
I know, right?
We miss you, Odun. Come back to the show.
So mad. I was like, damn it, Joe. Actually, there was a fascinating conversation about AI we should talk about later on that was kind of kicked off by that conversation.
Yeah.
About, do you see a time where movies are made entirely by prompting AI?
I mean, I don't see why not.
Could you imagine? Like that, and then it's like I remember the early conversations. I'll never forget. I was in a
You
studio.
could ask AI to say, AI, make me a movie, and it just creates a movie for you.
So I'll never forget. I was in when YouTube first came out. God, this is gonna make me sound old as shit. I was in a studio with a buddy who was a director, and he was recording the Black Eyed Peas in an interview. And before we started the camera, we were talking to will.i.am. And it's just will.i.am, my buddy, and me in the room, and Fergie's coming around the hallway humming. It was amazing, angelic, impressive.
Really?
Her voice is incredible.
Really?
At least back then. I don't know. People age, it gets different.
Yeah, she had a really bad performance at one of those like NBA All-Star games.
Did
it
she?
was, like, very cringeworthy.
Dude, I'll tell you right now, I'd never heard anything like it in my adult life until that time, and it was like shocking when she came around the corner. I was like, she was just humming too. She wasn't even singing.
Wow.
It was anyway. So we're talking to will.i.am, and this guy is talking about his life, how he came up, and why he loves clothes and everything else. And then he just pivots in the conversation, and he's like, "You see that new YouTube shit, man?" At the time, I hadn't.
So that's your
Like,
will.i.am
but-
impersonation?
No, that's just I'm trying to do a different voice to separate the conversation
Got it.
from me and this person you know is will.i.am.
Got it. Okay.
Way to be an asshole.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Son
right.
of a bitch.
Sorry, I couldn't
It's
help.
like, you see that new YouTube shit, man? And I can't even do it now. So I'm like, so at the time, I'm not trying to sound not cool to will.i.am, right? So I'm like, yeah, I've seen it. He's like, that shit's got to be illegal, man. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, we did a concert the other night in Brazil, and we flew back the next morning. By the time we got back, it's on YouTube. You can watch the concert that I did in Brazil. He's like, that shit's got to be illegal.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Sounds illegal.
that doesn't sound right. He's like, and they're making money. They're paying advertising. I mean, he knew the whole thing.
Wow.
But he was so into it, and he thought it was so wrong. Then I'm sitting here thinking, like, the Writers Guild of America is, in part, striking right now, and it's kind of shutting down a lot of Hollywood because of this and wages and some other things. But AI is certainly a part of that.
Right.
If you're a writer and you're saying, okay, AI is not creating anything new, it's searching the web for existing artist content,
Right.
and then effectively stealing their styles.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait a minute. Everything I've seen from AI thus far has really been a repurposing of something else online that was originally somebody's IP or like their style.
Right.
Like, that's wrong, right?
It definitely feels like it's wrong. This thing is growing at such an alarming rate that I don't feel like I can keep up.
I mean, I've fully embraced AI in the workplace.
Yeah.
Fully embraced it. And everybody who criticizes me, I have the exact same example, and it works every single time. If you're an executive at a publicly traded company or a larger company, you have like a communications group or a communications director, right? Who's going to help you curate the messages, and then you'll review them and make sure the message aligns with you. And a lot of times, these CEOs or high-level executives won't send it out themselves. They'll send out an email through like their admin will send it out on their behalf, or like the comms director will send it out with their signature on it,
Right.
and it'll look like it's from them,
Absolutely.
right? Or they have like a marketing department, it'll have some, whatever.
Right.
So it's no different if I tap AI to help me curate a message and then I customize it to sound like me.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, but I mean, think about how unfair that is. It's like this.
Why is that unfair? We all have access to it.
It goes completely against everything that we're taught in college. I wish I could do this on a paper.
Yeah, you think kids are gonna go back to blue books now?
They got to. No, they did for a while.
right?
I don't know if they're still doing it, but they have to. Yeah.
Like you can't give a kid like a laptop and be like, all right, man.
Okay, no, forget that. You're thinking about the in-day testing. I'm talking about writing an essay.
No, you can't write an essay anymore.
You can't ask somebody to write an essay.
No, book report. Get the fuck out of
No,
here.
you know what you have to do? You have to take it back old school, Socratic method. Stand up.
Yeah, law school over again. You could literally ask AI to write a summary on any fucking book out there on the internet.
It's insane.
I mean, write me a book report on this. The whole concept of book report has got to be completely foreign to kids right now.
Right.
Like, why would I do that? Why would I summarize a book?
Yeah.
To prove that I read it? It doesn't prove shit.
Man, it takes away so much. I mean, because if you can get that now, like this is like the better version of Cliff Notes.
Oh, dude. And I will say, oh God, I don't even want.
Do it. Come on, you already went down that path.
All right, in law school, they had the same thing for like legal cases.
Oh yeah.
Right, and the internet was just getting big enough, but you could read like the Cliff Notes version.
Oh yeah.
I did that all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, please don't call me. Please don't call me. Shit.
Yeah.
Stand up and be like,
Yeah.
yeah, so it basically said that a reasonable, prudent person in the same and similar circumstances would not be found guilty. Yeah.
Yeah. Just the summary of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is what it is. But AI is changing things so crazy, man.
And before Congress could ever do anything about it, it's just going to get out of control.
You have an AI guilty pleasure?
I haven't been messing with it as much, to be honest with you.
Come on, meow.
I really haven't. Here's the thing. It's so foreign to me. I don't know how to ask it to do something yet because I'm still using it as like
there's a whole new space on social media of people trying to give you prompts on how to ask things.
Yeah, because
that's crazy to me too.
I'm using it as like a Google search engine. You know what I mean? And I don't know how to use it.
No, the problem is you can get real precise. So you can say, make me a YouTube video, but you can also say, make me a YouTube video in the tone of Grant Cardone, so he's going to sound like a douchey car salesman, that lasts no longer than 15 seconds, and it will know how to pace you through. I mean, it's crazy.
That's insane.
But here's my two guilty pleasures with AI, okay? And I don't want you to judge me because these are fucking weird, okay? Guilty pleasure number one, anytime anyone renders an AI image in Wes Anderson style. I love that shit. They did Star Wars in Wes Anderson style. We should prove that on the show.
Yeah.
I love it. They did Succession characters in Wes Anderson style. I don't know why. It's just so goofy and corny. I love it.
That's cool. Okay.
But that's really stealing Wes Anderson style.
I haven't messed with it enough. I know. I think I heard like somebody on the Joe Rogan podcast say, write me a Joe Rogan style joke.
Yeah.
In a Louis C.K. format. So like combining two.
And it can do that.
Comedians.
But that's stealing somebody else's IP. Again, is it legal? I mean, you're really technically stealing somebody else's shit.
Yeah.
But my other guilty pleasure, if anybody has access to Photoshop, it's been all over social media, so you probably already done this. Download the Photoshop beta.
Right.
If you subscribed, and we subscribe because we have the podcast, so we need a bunch of creative tools, and we use Photoshop.
Right.
We downloaded the beta and the generative fill tool.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't perfect.
Right.
But damn.
It's pretty damn close.
It's impressive.
It is.
You can circle parts and say insert chandelier. You can circle other parts, you could change people's entire shirt. I mean, it's at the point now where it's like it's impressive.
Right.
It isn't perfect, but it is impressive. Yeah. And just to see what it'll automatically generate. I've seen entire tutorials on how people can literally create images from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And like they'll create shirt designs and stuff like that. It's impressive.
Yeah. It's pretty.
We went way off topic.
We did go way off topic.
It's all Joe Rogan's fault.
Joe
Rogan.
Joe Rogan,
Or maybe we did that on purpose.
Yeah. Cerebral, dog.
We cerebellums.
100p. So back to the credit cards.
Bars.
So a big part of the reason why credit card debt has ballooned to as high as it is, it has to do with inflation, and it also has to do with the interest rates on these credit cards going up. Right? People aren't able to now maintain, because we know that there's plenty of cases out there where people are only covering their minimum payments. So if your rate on your credit card goes up and your minimum payments now go up, I mean, you're barely getting by.
Yo, man, I don't want to minimize this because a lot of people will privately have conversations with me, and these are the most difficult conversations because it takes a lot of courage to come to anybody and open up. It's almost like a psychology session. It's like a therapist conversation.
Absolutely.
Where people come to you and they're like, hey, man, I want to improve this. And you start talking to them, and I always do the same thing, and I feel fucking bad, but I'm always like, how did you get here?
Yeah.
And sometimes there's like an emotional story. A lot of people will use buying to cover up for emotions.
Yeah.
You know, like there's
That's their
a
way of,
breakup
like,
or, you know.
That's their way of self-medicating.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Or as the kids say, 100p.
100p, dog.
But yeah, it's just like a self-medicating, like kind of dealing with coping mechanism, if you will. And breaking it down, it's crazy to see how people got to you. But you have to understand, when people come to you, it's the first step in like their therapy. Like they have now admitted and recognized they have an issue. They're coming to you to seek advice.
Right.
Presumptively under the auspice of me being a professional, which I would say is a terrible lack of, like, you know, judgment on your part.
No,
you compounded the issue by going from one bad decision to another.
No.
And usually my solution is take up drugs.
No, stop.
I'm kidding.
Stop.
I'm kidding. No, but usually you walk them through, and then that's where I look at someone like Dave Ramsey's advice, and I go, okay, it makes sense here. Let's start with baby steps. What's going to make you feel mentally fulfilled?
Right.
And how to properly pay down your debt. You're going to feel better if you do it quicker. You're going to feel better if you pay one off.
So the first thing that you hear always when someone's trying to teach you on how to use credit card debt is, don't spend more than you can afford. Okay.
What does that mean, though?
Exactly. And that's my follow-up question. What does that mean for you?
So this gets into your whole conversation about how to properly use a credit card.
Yes, that's the path I want to go down.
I know the paths you want to go down.
All the paths.
All of them.
Yeah.
And they all lead to one place.
What place is that?
Happy, happy, joy, joy.
Oh, yeah, you know.
My happy place. My soul.
Let's go.
So I have a very hard and fast rule of how I use credit cards. A lot of people do not agree with this who are in like this, I guess, early young financial literacy stage. I don't think that we should treat adults like children. And people like Dave Ramsey like to say, okay, you've abused credit, so you can't manage credit, so you should look to not have credit at all.
Yes.
To me, that's not responsible. My response is, you've mismanaged credit, you know how dangerous it can be, but let me teach you how to use it, because in order to be successful and adult, you need to understand how to use debt.
This is part of the game.
A big
part of the game. You
cannot change the rules of the game, and you cannot say it's a zero-sum game, so I'm just not going to play. Because every wealthy person leverages debt strategically.
Right.
It's terrible to think that there's a dichotomy of values there, but wealthy people can use it to grow more wealth, and poor people can use it to get more poor.
Right. I've underwritten individuals that make $20 million a year in rental income. They have $1 billion in real estate assets that they own on their provided scheduled real estate, but they also owe $500 million.
I know those numbers never cease to amaze me, though.
Right? So it's like, that's part of the game. The whole game is leverage.
Yeah. So here's what I'll say. We use our credit card primarily for everything, hence the black card thing, right?
Right.
And it's because we spend everything on those cards. Now, I'm not going to say this in the context of having a business card or not having a business card. That's a different conversation for a different day. Now we're going to focus on just your personal debt.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
You should be spending all of your expenses on your credit card and not on your ATM debit card. I don't want anybody to have direct access to my ATM account, which has my cash, right? You generally have good ATM cards like Visas and MasterCards and whatever that also act as like a credit card in some level of protection. They give you points. And that's what someone like Dave Ramsey would have you use. Me, on the other hand, I say use your credit card. Use the one that gives you the most amount of points. If you're an American Express user, it's not the black card. Most of your points and your benefits are coming from the gold card, believe it or not.
Okay.
The platinum card actually isn't the best one for points. It's the gold card. Hands down. There are plenty of other credit cards. Chase has, Capital One has some that are really good. There's lots of different versions out there.
And different cards at different times, at different promotions, and a good popular website a lot of people use is NerdWallet.
Yeah, and maybe you want cash back. Maybe that's your benefit of choice. Maybe you want travel. Maybe you want luxury. And as you start getting more and more adept with your spending, those are things you want to look at to take it like a little extra kind of bonus, if you will.
Absolutely.
Once you've mastered the craft of how to use your card appropriately.
Right. And before you go down that path of making sure you spend everything on your credit card, it's also this is an assumption that was made that you should have your budget in line as well. I mean, you shouldn't be overspending, right? Because at the end of the month, what should you be doing?
So exactly. So you should only spend on your credit card what you can pay off at the end of that month.
Right.
If you're putting balances on your credit card that you're carrying forward, those can be large purchases that you've strategically planned to pay off over a period of a couple of months or so.
Yeah.
But you need to be thoughtful and pragmatic about how you do that.
Absolutely.
It can't just be like, I'm going to buy this, but I can't afford to pay it off this month, but I really, really want it. Never buy under that pretense.
So approximately they say around 35% of your entire credit score is made up of your payment history, right? And one 30-day late payment could actually take a pretty significant hit against that.
And a little fun fact, too, the amount of available credit you have to you that you've maximized, meaning if you have $100,000 in available credit, but you've used $100,000 of it, will negatively impact your score.
Right. Credit utilization rate.
Yes. So you want to make sure that you're using your credit appropriately and as an adult, but you're not using all of it either.
They say approximately no more than 30%, right?
So believe it or not, my wife and I only really have one personal credit card in our names now.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Just our American Express.
Okay.
I do have some business credit cards. We don't have any more car payments, and our credit score is a little bit different because we've got so many mortgages. Like I think I got like 7 or something on my personal name at this point.
Right.
Down from more at one point, but you cap out at 10.
Okay.
Generally speaking. So for us, our score is always weighted towards heavy mortgages and heavy revolving debt, and it drags my score down from 850 to like 810 or 800 or something from time to time, depending on all that stuff. And then when you have inquiries, it can also drag that down. But for most of you out there, the way you want to look at your credit card is I'm going to spend everything that I'm spending on the credit card. People are like, well, why would you do that, Chris? You get the protection of a credit card. I like American Express because they literally will waive any fee. I call them up and be like, hey, I didn't do this. This is fraud. Their customer service is amazing like that. And that's not because I have one type of card. They're all like that. All their customer service is like that. So I think there's a tremendous amount of value there. Plus, you're protected. Plus, you can get some points. But if anything, you're building credit and you're being responsible, and you pay it down at the end of every single month.
Right. And so every credit card is different, but now a majority of them have this period called a grace period, right?
Yeah.
And this is the part that I think people get most confused by that they don't understand, because you hear, oh, you charge your card, just pay it down by the end of the month. So the way it works is this: you have your billing cycle. Okay, let's say your billing cycle begins September 10th, and then that period ends. Let's call it October 9th. Okay, for that 30 days, right? You get whatever purchases you made. Your payment is set up for, like, let's say November 2nd. Between October 9th and November 2nd, that's your grace period.
Yep.
Right? That you're not getting charged interest on the purchase that you made during that billing cycle. So long as you pay it down. Now, like I said, caveat, every credit card is different. You want to make sure you check with your credit card that this grace period applies to you, right? And see what your grace period is. But all the purchases that you made during that time frame of that billing cycle will not accrue any interest. So as long as you pay that all down during that time, you're good. But any balance that carries past that payment due date will then begin to accrue interest.
So a very valuable lesson here, and the reason why I always kind of leaned towards American Express wasn't because I was a big fanboy. American Express is a charge card versus a typical credit revolving line of credit. So if you use a normal credit card, and American Express has leaned into the charge revolving debt space more and more, and they have some options there.
Right.
But generally speaking, a traditional American Express card, your full balance is due at the end of the month.
Yes.
So if you charge $50,000, you pay $50,000 at the end of the month.
Right.
Whereas with some credit cards, they float your balance and they continue to float it over time. Which is also why American Express is perceived to be for people who have a higher net worth, is because people are only using those charges for things they can pay off at the end of the month.
Yes.
It's a charge card, not a true credit card in some ways.
Right. Another big thing that helps your credit is credit length history, right? For how long you've had a credit card. So I actually still have my credit card that I opened up when I was in college, my Wells Fargo.
I have mine too. I never use it. I don't even know where it's at, but yeah, I have mine too.
So I have just a few recurring payments go through that every month.
Want to hear something funny?
Huh.
My original Wells Fargo credit card that I opened up when I was 18 has a maximum balance of $17,000.
Yeah, mine has a maximum balance of $9,000.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's like I don't even ever request it. I don't even know how it got to 9. Right? They just increase it on increase it on their own.
I think mine started off at 5. Would you start off? Was it 5?
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
But what I do, and what you can do if you don't have a card like an American Express charge card that Chris is referring to, is so the recurring payments that I have come through there, like my Netflix account or whatever else, I enroll in auto pay, right, to make sure that entire balance, I don't even have to look at it. I know at the end of every month whatever that bill comes in, it automatically gets taken out of my account, so I don't have to even worry about it.
I used to do that with my Wells Fargo card because it gave you automatic cell phone insurance coverage.
Yeah.
But now American Express offers that, and it runs through there.
Yeah.
All of my cards are on auto pay.
Right.
They pay the full balance at the end of the month.
Right.
And I'm keenly aware that I do not spend more on that card than I have in my checking account, which it drafts from.
Right. And here's the other thing: if you don't learn how to play this game, you're leaving money on the table, right? Because there are ways where if you know, for instance, that you have the money in your account saved up to go on a vacation, right, coming up later on this year, and you and your wife or your partner or whoever want to plan for this vacation, you could, and you know you don't have any big expenses coming up. You don't need to have the highest credit score later on this year because you know you're not planning on buying a house or buying a car or whatever. There are cards out there that offer you traveling points.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not a fan of doing that because I just don't like the idea of opening up accounts.
Right, but you could because you could ultimately, and then afterwards, once it's paid off, you could close it. Your credit will take a minor hit for a few months until it goes
not a
back
fan
up.
of that.
Not a fan, but at the end of the day, this is a game that you could play to somehow get one of your tickets paid for.
Yeah, a lot of points guys do that. A lot of people do that. Like the Hawaiian Airlines has a card. I think there's one that had Southwest points for a long time that people used to utilize a lot, and they gave you a ton of like travel points and perks. I look at it like this: once your credit is under control and you're now in a position where you can choose how and where you spend because you're not obligated to these massive debt payments,
right?
Then start looking at points, start looking strategically.
Yeah.
If you're not at that point yet, what you should be looking for are a couple different things. If your balances are so large that you're getting tons of interest and the interest is killing you, one of the things I recommend to people is you can actually open up a credit card under certain circumstances, depending on how big your balances are, and transfer your balances in at a teaser 0% interest rate. Sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's a full year.
Sometimes it's even 18 months.
Yeah. So if you can take all of your credit card debt and open up a new card, consolidate all that debt onto that new card, the balance transfer, which a lot of them will offer you.
There will be a minor fee. I think
minor fee,
like 2 or 3%.
2 or 3%, not a big deal. And then you can have 0% interest for a year, and you can physically pay off your card in that year. That sometimes is a great option.
But you want to make sure that you actually do the math and you can pay that off.
You need to commit to it. Yeah. If you can't pay it off at the end of the year, then you've just wasted a ton of money.
Yeah. Don't just do that and be like, okay, wait, I'll start next month. No. You gotta stay committed.
So yeah, we touched a lot of credit cards today.
Yeah.
You want to move on, or you still want to touch my credit card stuff?
Government bonds, baby.
So this article from Axios, the hidden risk on bank balance sheets. And so there's been a lot of talk about bonds. Bonds are really just a debt obligation.
Exactly.
Right? So you loan somebody some money, i.e. the U.S. government, and they have an obligation to pay you back. And most people aren't like, well, the U.S. government's not going to not pay us back.
Right.
Well, unless the debt ceiling wasn't passed, in which case they would default on those bonds.
If they defaulted, then it would have been a huge problem. But it's essentially a way. Basically, what happened, the government overspends every single year. And a way for them to make up the money that they overspend on is they issue debt. And people buy that debt.
So we call them suckers.
Yeah. No, it's a safe investment, man. Come on.
Well, it is. So the big picture here is government bonds have zero risk weighting under Basel rules. Basel rules are basically how people treat this for accounting purposes. Don't worry about the technical speak. The rest of this article is more important, which means that banks can hold an unlimited quantity of them without having to hold any capital at all. Little reminder for those of you out there in listener land, Silicon Valley Bank bought a lot of government bonds.
A lot.
So much so, they had to take a massive loss, which ultimately led to their run on the bank for deposits and a liquidity shortfall, and them ultimately failing. So they could do this with no capital weighted against these bonds because of the accounting rules, the Basel rules in place.
Right.
Crazy, yet true.
Right. So what Silicon Valley Bank did during that time, they had a lot of excess capital, and what they thought at the time was a safe investment for them and their shareholders was to invest that capital into government bonds.
Which didn't pay a lot of interest, but the risk wasn't in the bonds going bad.
Right.
It was in the fact that interest rates rose so much that those bonds were worth way less because they weren't paying then in market rates.
Exactly. So if that's the problem with bonds, right? When interest rates go up, the value of the bonds come down. Now, not a problem if you're able to hold those bonds until maturity. right? But if you have to sell those bonds, you're going to sell them at a loss.
And another accounting rule that's fun out there is that if you held them to maturity, you didn't have to recognize the loss. So if you said, hey, guys, I know this bond that I'm holding that's supposed to be worth $100 million is only worth $50 million, but I'm never going to sell it. So I'm going to hold it to maturity. I move it to held to maturity on my balance sheet for accounting purposes.
Yeah.
I have that bond on my balance sheet as $100 million.
Oh, interesting.
That's how they got dinged. They had it all held to maturity. They're like, hey, we have this unrealized loss. That's the unrealized loss. When they had to sell it, they had to recognize that as not held to maturity because they're not holding to maturity. They're selling it.
Right.
Now they realize that loss.
Right. Do you know, by the way, the history behind bonds and how they came about?
Something tells me you do.
This is actually pretty cool. So it traces back all the way to World War I. So in 1917, it was the way they called them Liberty loans, as a way to, generate money to show support for the war. And they raised $17 billion back then. That was 2/3 of the cost of the war.
You want to hear something crazy, too? You'll find that a lot of instruments that we have in modern-day society that we've just accepted as normal don't have as long a history as we think. Like, we think, like the Boston Tea Party and no taxation without representation, and taxes have always been a part of life.
That sounds like a fire song. No taxation without representation.
You do realize that was... You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and go, okay.
Yeah, leave that one.
Yeah, that's fine. You're right. You know what? That's a rapper. His name was Thomas Jefferson.
I said it sounds like a fire song.
Anyway, so a lot of these things we think are commonplace and just been a part of like human history and the evolution of modern society are actually not as old as we think they are.
Right.
This and taxes, we covered during the Mind Pump episode how income tax really came from Milton Friedman
right.
helping out during World War II
right.
as a way to generate extra revenue. And it was supposed to be temporary for the war and go away.
Right.
Bonds weren't very much different.
Exactly.
They were supposed to help us during a difficult time, a war, shocker, right? But now we've leveraged them into a completely different vehicle.
Absolutely. Yeah, and for the longest time, they were used as the safest investment. A lot of retirees will transfer their investment portfolio into that. A lot of investors will buy bonds as a cushion for their portfolio. People, for the longest time, would invest in them for their children's college tuitions.
Right? They were viewed as very, very, very safe because there wasn't a credit default risk. And up until this particular economy, credit defaults, people not being able to pay or there being some kind of issue with their repayment of the debt obligation have what led the way to failures in the system.
Yes.
But at this time is different. There are no credit defaults yet. We believe the office space and the sector and the pressures there, and maybe even credit cards and things like that will continue to ramp up the possibility of this. But for right now, it's interest rate risk in bonds, actually leading back to the article. The catch, government bonds may not have any credit risk, although in this era of debt ceiling standoffs, even that isn't certain anymore, but that hardly means they're risk-free. In fact, interest rate risk, something common to all bonds, including government bonds, is a bigger risk than credit risk today.
Right.
And in my mind, that has never really happened like this. Going all the way back to the 70s, where I think this is the last time you saw, I think 71-ish was the last time you saw a stagflationary economy like what we could be going through.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And just the thought of it is scary because so you can buy government bonds on the primary market, right? And also on the secondary market. And when it's being sold on the secondary market, these bonds are now being almost treated like stocks.
They're traded the exact same way. Yes.
They're traded the exact same way. And something that's supposed to be viewed so safe as being so risky now.
Well, they're risky because you're not getting the same market return as you can get in the market today because newly issued bonds will have a lot higher interest rate return than bonds that were issued in the last 5 to 10 years.
But it should be noted, too, that, if I were to buy some government bonds and I needed to sell them because all of a sudden, for whatever reason, I needed the liquidity, it's not the same thing as Silicon Valley Bank. I'm not buying billions of dollars worth of bonds.
You don't have the scale for it.
Exactly.
Right.
So that risk factor is still not there. But for you, maybe, Mr. Black Card, Might be a different game.
What would an episode of The Higher Standard be if Saied didn't take a petty and uncalled for shot across the bow at my financial position?
Wait, hold on. You referenced Black Card. I just wanted to make sure.
Just because my card was black doesn't mean that it doesn't have
your American Express Black Card.
gold card feelings.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'd like to get to the meat and potatoes of this episode. Everything that we gave you up until this point was an aperitif. It was a palate cleanser of sorts. We've done this to prime you mentally, physically for this moment right now.
Right now.
This motherfucker right here.
This motherfucker right here?
Right here. I told you so. That's the quote.
I told you so?
I told you so.
This guy.
Coming on strong with the little pipe. Dave Ramsey made the correct call on U.S. real estate 18 months ago, but is he still right about the housing market in 2023? Here's what the financial guru thinks now from MoneyWise. He seems to enjoy being right.
This guy's.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's get into this, shall we? His call 18 months ago was home values are not going to go down. They're going to go up every year for the next 5 years.
Right. If only he had Odun back there to press the button.
There's a button we have permanently situated on the keyboard with that exact same quote, which we can't push from the other side of the wall.
I almost want to go out and just press it.
He is not right, okay?
No.
And let me just be clear. Let's just avoid the controversy of discussing the real estate values on average across the country. He didn't say across the country on average or all those things, and even if he did, that doesn't matter to you on the West Coast. Let's say you live in San Jose and your values have gone down more than 12% this year.
What about me, Dave Ramsey?
What about you?
Yeah.
Okay. And let's say you're in San Diego and your real estate values went down. Let's say you're in Las Vegas or Arizona and your real estate values went down.
Right.
So was he right? No, he was not right. He was ass backwards wrong. If you recall, Dave Ramsey said that and then was so far emboldened by the controversy and pushback that he went on and did a presentation where he sat in front of a screen and he pounded his little paper on his hand and it was rolled up to give him some weird image of authority and having data in his hand, but you didn't actually have any data in his hand, but he said he had data in his hand.
Right.
And he said, I've been in this business for 44 years.
Yeah.
I've seen cycle after cycle. Hey, asshole, okay? This is not like any other cycle in the last 44 years.
Snowflake.
Okay? They're all snowflakes. And last time I checked, there was not one recessionary economy that Dave Ramsey has lived and worked through professionally that had interest rate risk sensitivity as its primary concern. There was not a cycle where interest rates were increased not once, not twice, but multiple times, 75 basis points back to back. Why? Because it's never happened before.
Right.
So don't sit here and tell people that supply and demand is the only metric that moves real estate. As long as the demand is there and the supply is low, values will stay high. That is not true. And we've seen examples of that already starting this year. Is it going slower? Yes, because it happened after 14 years of artificial interest rate deflation, the longest in human history. That we've seen interest rates do that. Well, I should say modern human history. We've seen interest rates do that. So, of course, it's not moving at the cadence it has. But to say that you were right and that values haven't gone down is complete bullshit.
Right.
Now, again, I don't hate the man. I have a picture of him right behind me on the show. If you haven't watched the YouTube channel, you owe it to yourself to see my loving photo of my friend Dave Ramsey back here. He's not wrong about all of his advice. Okay, this is not an attack on him. But this one thing I disagree with vehemently. That is a misrepresentation. Supply and demand do not drive the market because
demand without affordability
is not fucking demand.
I had to pause for emphasis, man. How you feel?
I feel like I could go another hour on the rant, but I feel like the values may have been exhausted a little bit.
Right. I mean,
you feel like I've
these values are gonna vary because it's regional, right? It's different for every region.
It is, but it's also not. And so here's what I would say. I welcome a correction in values. I'm not saying a crash. And a crash typically defined 20% or more. We've never thought that real estate values are going to go down 20% or more.
We never said that, no.
And over the course of the last 3 years, in some areas, 42% in a single year. Now, I will point out, all the areas where real estate values went up the most in the last 2 years, that had the largest increases, are the areas that have come down first.
Yes.
In some areas like Florida and southeast, southwest Florida
Mm-hmm.
have seen some tremendous booms and are still seeing value increases, and I get that. But they're just slower reactors.
Yeah.
The West Coast went up first. They went up more.
Mm-hmm.
They've come down first and gone down more.
Right.
Why don't people think that the rest of the country is going to be affected the same way? And in California, for the record, there is a huge, huge shortage of supply.
Of inventory, right.
So if his argument worked, that would not be theoretically possible to happen, yet San Jose down. San Diego down. Some areas of Los Angeles down.
I would tell the people that are looking to buy right now, especially those first-time home buyers, because the pitch that they're being sold. It's we can get you into a house by putting as little as 3.5% down. So what you have 96.5. You have only 3.5% equity, right? God forbid values come down and then you lose your job. I mean, so as of on Wednesday, that's the other part about this that I'm curious to see about with the summary of economic projections that the Fed's going to release. So they're going to release their dot plot, right, which will give us a clue of how many of the FOMC members see rates going to, let's say, above 5.5%, 5.75%, right? Who knows? Last time we had even one person come out and say 6%.
Fucking Neil Kashkari.
No, I think that was Waller.
Was it Waller?
Probably.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't surprise me.
I don't think it
Waller.
says their name, but you get it from all the Fed speak.
But you know who it is.
Yeah, you know who it is. So the other part of that though is also going to be where they see unemployment going. And
that's so again, these are the things where like people are like, oh, you know what, guys, the economy's healthy, unemployment's not really moving a whole lot, and wages are strong. Like we may get out of this. So then, like, dude, like just because the bomb hasn't gone off doesn't mean that it's not going to go off. The fuse is lit, brother.
Right.
We're like on a cartoon. We're seeing it like burn across the screen. And everyone's like, nah, it's not gonna blow up.
Yeah. We've never said on this show that there's going to be a real estate market crash for the single family space.
But a correction would be healthy.
It much needed.
How many people do you know can't afford a home right now?
So many.
I would say more people than not can't afford a home right now.
Absolutely. And it's I don't know, it makes me feel really, not only does it make me feel bad for the people right now that are in the market, it makes me feel bad about what my kids are going to be walking into.
Bro, in order to buy a house first time, it's going to be like $1 million.
Yeah. Are you kidding? Easy. Yeah. By the time our kids are ready to buy homes, are you kidding?
Average home across country, $1 million. Just why try?
Yeah. Figure it out.
I'm going to go buy a hut.
Really?
Yeah, I don't
No.
know.
Airstream?
Airstream. I actually like those.
Those are so clean, right?
They look cool.
They look so cool.
Like the idea of traveling around the country and like hitting parks when I was a kid would have sounded terrible. Now the idea of like one of those like mini vans, not like a full RV, but like a
doable
mini,
for me. I mean, I take 2 showers a day.
like the Mercedes Sprinter vans.
Your 1 shower a day.
First of all, 2 showers a day is not good for your skin. Don't put that shit on me. First of all, this is probably why you're so hairy. Your skin's probably revolting against you, okay? Like 2 showers a day is not normal. You're supposed to have a healthy amount of body oil. And if you smell that bad because you got some body odor issues, let's talk about that.
I just like to feel clean, man.
You like to feel clean. Bruh.
Shave
your body hair like I do. You will feel clean.
No, man.
The not have your hair holds sweat.
No.
I'm telling you. Like this is not look, I'm not trying to pitch you on this.
Oh, so let me ask you a question.
No, man.
Yeah. Would you rather go around in one of those Airstreams or one of those those big vans that they deck out on the inside?
I like the vans. So the Mercedes has
oh my god.
The Mercedes Benz. So one of my neighbors had somebody visit him. This guy rolls up and it looks like a Mercedes like van, right?
Sprinter van or something.
Like a Sprinter van, right? But I guess they did some like collab with Airstream or something. I don't know. But I opened it up.
What?
It was fucking beautiful on the inside. I'm like, oh, did you have this custom made? He's like, no, this is the way they sell it. Now it's expensive. It was like $175,000 or something like that starting price, and his decked out to like 200 something.
God damn.
But dude, it was dope. There was a bed in the back, full flat screen TV. Like I'm sitting. Like the only question, you can't like walk around in it while someone's driving, right? You're supposed to be in seatbelts,
right?
But I would love to take my wife and my son and just like travel. I've never been to a national park.
Might be too tight for 3 people. 2 people maybe. 3 people.
He's 4, dude.
What do you mean? Yeah, I know.
A 4-year-old and your wife, you should be fine.
Okay, you're gonna buy a $200,000 Sprinter van for 1 year? What do you mean?
Not 1 year.
Cars are gonna continue to grow, man.
Bro, he's not like an alligator where he's gonna grow like 200 pounds a year.
I'm pretty sure he's gonna grow pretty rapidly.
Yeah, he's going pretty big. Yeah.
Walk that back.
Bro, he's tall, dude. But yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I'm just saying, like I've never been to a national park, man. I would love to do that. Never. Even as a kid. But my dad.
Joshua Tree National Park?
No, my dad is like Middle Eastern from Iran.
Yeah,
Man.
go
Like,
Joshua
so
Tree.
like
Joshua Tree is awesome.
national parks to my dad just weren't like a thing. Like that wasn't his vibe.
And it wasn't for us either, but I mean, I went as an adult.
Yeah, I never got to go.
I'll hold your hand. I'll take you.
I don't need you to hold my hand, bro.
I'll hold you until maturity.
I gotta be honest. If we were in the forest
Sorry,
and a bear saw you and a bear saw me,
you didn't see what I did
a
there.
bear would think that you are a predator threat. They would look
and
at
I'm
me
gonna
and be
I'm
like,
gonna look at him like let's tag team this bitch.
No, that's not gonna happen. Okay, they're gonna look at him and go, "That's a human. We should steer clear." You're gonna be like, "That's a homie. I'm gonna go talk to him real quick."
Exactly.
Yeah, he smells just like me.
Oh man.
Well, normally I tell Arun to bring up some reviews or something. Arun, you back there?
Yeah.
No.
Come on.
Aw.
Can't even hear him laughing.
Normally you're like,
I miss his giggle.
It's giggle. Is it a giggle or is it like a belly laugh?
Yeah. No, it's a giggle. Come on. Why are you being so mean?
This is more nasally when he laughs.
You can only make fun of him when he's here. Otherwise,
feel-
it's mean.
I've only had one person ever get upset that we made fun of him.
Really?
Yeah. And I didn't respect that person, so I didn't have a problem with it.
I was. Oh man! Wait, so I need an update. What's going on with the Rivian?
Rivian, October
So
Q4 delivery.
Are
Yeah.
you rolling with it? Is that what you're going with?
I don't know, man. I've seen a lot of the Hummers lately, and I'm like, damn, those are cool.
God damn! I saw one at the office parking lot the other day. I was like, that's it. This has to be it for you.
That one you took a photo of lives in my neighborhood.
Really?
Yeah, the matte black one.
No, it wasn't matte black.
I think
It was silver, matte silver or something.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it just looks black at night.
Oh, okay.
But man, I don't know. Part of me, I was talking to my wife, so we're waiting for the Max Pack, the long range one. I think it's got an estimated like range of 360 miles. The Max Pack's supposed to have like 450.
For the Rivian?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rivian. You don't say Rivian.
Come on, it's Rivian.
It's not French, bro.
Come on, let's make it
Is
classy.
it a Rivian?
Make it classy.
Yeah. Does it go fast or slow? Where is the space for the baguette?
I'm trying to make it cool because it has such a small bed.
Sometimes you only need a small bed, my friend. It's not the sauce, that's how you use it. So I'm thinking about, I told Joanna this, we were driving somewhere over the weekend. I'm like, hey, why don't I give you that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's 4 doors, right? It's got a truck bed, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But she moves stuff back and forth to storage, and she's like kind of into crafting and stuff. So, she could use that. Plus, it's got a ton of storage.
Right.
You don't need quite the space of the Tesla. And I said, I'll drive the Tesla for a little bit. And I'm thinking like, maybe we trade the Tesla in for something else.
Mm.
We have free lifetime charging on it, but I heard if you trade it in for another Tesla, they give you 6 years free. We don't really keep cars longer than 2-3 years anyway.
Speaking of train your car in, I got some car data for you too.
That was a segue?
That was a segue.
I really did not know that.
You like that?
Yeah. That was
Threw myself a lob.
intriguing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, in 2018, 60% of used cars were selling for less than $20,000. Right?
Oh, bro, it's not anywhere close to that today, man.
Right now, 30%. Half.
Wow.
Less than 1% of all new vehicles. This number right here blew me away. I could not believe this. Less than 1% of all new vehicles are selling for less than $20,000.
Bro, I remember when you could buy a car for $5,000. New.
Bro, what are we talking? 20 grand? Well, less than 1%.
Yeah.
What's going on?
It's inflation, baby.
This is according to Edmunds, by the way.
Yeah, I believe it. I'm just telling you, like,
This is inflation. What are our kids? I'm gonna have to buy Adam and Arya like $60,000 cars. As
you want a Honda, son? It's $100,000, bro.
Yeah. Tap into that college tuition fund.
Shit has gotten crazy. The amount of like money, 14 years of pumping money into the economy. People have spent so much. The prices are stupid.
It's ridiculous.
Stupid. You know how much the Rivian cost, or in your case, the Rivian cost new now?
How much?
It's like $104,000
Man.
for a fucking truck, man.
I know.
I'm paying like 84, 87 or whatever the hell I agreed for, and I'm getting under MSRP.
Right.
And I feel like I'm getting a deal, but I'm like, it's a fucking truck, man.
I can't even justify it, man. I'm gonna ride the Jeep so the wheels fall off.
I gotta get rid of the Jeep, man. My Jeep doesn't hold water anymore. It's got like all sorts of like sounds and shit. Like,
Oh, really?
I love the Jeep. Don't get me wrong. And it's. I got complimented on it. I went to that restaurant Orange Hill for my wife's parents' like 40-year anniversary or something.
Love the view out there. Don't like the food though.
Food was not good.
Yeah, I don't understand.
I ordered a ribeye. I was
really?
like, I could have cooked. I mean, it looked like somebody cooked it on a steak. Like I cooked it on like the steak on like a skillet.
Yeah.
Didn't even like burn the outside or anything. Like it wasn't crisp.
Yeah.
And just like put it on a plate and it just sat there. Like here you go. Like it looked like somebody like who was smoking a cigarette would make it.
I swear,
and, like, it was terrible.
They're banking entirely on the view. That's all it is over
That's
there.
all it is. And people rolling up in suits, and I'm like, this place sucks. What are you doing here? I swear to God, I walked in. I become such a fucking hobo. I don't know what happened to me. Maybe I'm just going through a depression. I don't know. I rolled in with like a see-through like t-shirt, my nipples out, and like I'm wearing Nike sweatpants.
You're just wearing sweats everywhere you go.
Everywhere I go now, I'm just wearing sweats. I'm at a point where I've reached critical mass of fuck it.
Yeah.
Like I don't care.
Yeah.
My wife's like, are you wearing that here? And I'm like, and people are walking in with suits, and I go, yep.
Yeah.
In the back of my mind, I'm thinking some arrogant ass shit too.
Yeah. Why? What do you?
Like I'm just like, yep.
What are you thinking?
None of these motherfuckers got black cards.
Oh, wow. See, you do it to yourself, man.
I know, it's terrible. But I'm at the point where, like, it shouldn't matter how I'm dressed. Like, and I understand it's supposed to be like a nice restaurant.
Yeah.
But I'm like, come on, man. I'm trying to be comfortable.
Yeah, but you don't like to get dressed, look nice, and
No, I do. Not. I used to. I don't know what's going on, man. I'm going through here's the problem. Nothing fits me anymore because my body type is just
you need
testosterone has changed my shit.
Yeah.
Like it's totally changed my body type.
In more ways than one. Yeah, change all your shits.
My digestive system was fucked up.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing. But no, I'm dead serious. Like my body has changed in a way that I think is permanent. Like I don't think I'll ever get back down to like the same size as I was, and maybe I just carry more muscle mass this way. And I guess it's part of the reason why you take it, although it wasn't my intention.
Mm-hmm.
But like none of my clothes fit me the right way now because I have to like shop for I have to like figure out what my new look is.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about quiet luxury online, right? Like people wearing like higher end materials with not luxury designer names on it. And, quiet. I kind of really dig the vibe of like looser fit clothes that it's almost like quiet. Like I don't like wearing like luxury brands. Like I'm not like that. I mean, I like my shoes, but some of those are, I guess, quiet flexes, if you will.
Right.
But
if you know, you know.
Yeah, but I like just simple, like a t-shirt, like a nice pair of pants, like simple.
Yeah.
And I know that's not everybody's cup of tea.
I remember when we had to start coming back to the office. The first thing I went and did is when I bought 4 black polos. I'm like, I'm just wearing a black polo to work every day.
You do?
Yeah. I really do.
You do. I haven't called you out on it because I'm trying to be gentle.
Yeah. You think I'm wearing the same black polo?
No, I knew you were wearing different ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could tell. Because they all got stains from where you eat.
Too clean for that.
Yeah.
That's right.
The little stains from where you ate.
I like how we dragging the show out for Odin to edit longer.
Yeah, this is his punishment. You miss a fucking show, brother. You're going to be editing a 4-hour episode.
Yeah, we love you, Marcel, but Odin, you're going to edit this shit.
This is halftime.
Yeah.
Should we get drinks?
Intermission. Let's go.
Play a little intermission song.
Yeah.
We'll just do a wardrobe change and come right back.
Oh, man, dude. God forbid we had a full, media team. Oh, we'd run this guy through the ringer. I would do all that.
So bad.
Yeah.
So bad. All right, let's call it a wrap.
All right. Got anything else?
No. I love you.
All right. For everyone's sake, hopefully on Wednesday.
Say it back, asshole.
I love you too.
Okay. That didn't seem sincere.
Sometimes. Yeah.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Hopefully on Wednesday we got that pause and people don't go out and celebrate too much.
And don't be an asshole and refer to it as skipping.
Yeah.
They are pausing.
It's a pause. Hopefully it's a stop, but for now it's a pause. We're hoping that it's a stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.